Episode number 106. In our previous podcast episodes, we used chord tones mixed with non-chord tones, passing, auxiliary, and the appoggiatura. In this episode, we will add in a new chord, G major, and some new techniques. Combined with the C and the F major chords, we now have the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the key of C major. To review, the key of C major is a family of chords based on the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Upon each note of the scale, we build a 3-note chord, a triad. This results in the following chords: the 1 chord, C major, the 2 chord, D minor, the 3 chord, E minor, the 4 chord, F major, the 5 chord, G major, the 6 chord, A minor, and the 7 chord, B diminished. The 3 major chords, C, F, and G, are called primary. 2, 3, and 6, the minor, are called secondary, and 7 is diminished. This is the same pattern for all the major keys. Just take any major scale and add a triad on top. So for example, the G major scale, then the chords would be G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, and F sharp diminished. This is so important because all the functions that we will work on in our episodes will apply to all the keys. And the relative sound of each chord and their movement will also be the same for each key. So now let's add in the G chord. The notes in the G chord are G, B, and D. On any keyboard, you always try for the closest position or voicings. So for the C chord, we went C, E, G, root position, and then for the F chord, instead of going F, A, C and jumping up, we went the closest, which was C, F, and A. Now for G, we will do the closest, which will be D, G, B, or B, D, G. So we'll take the D, G, B. C, E, G, C chord. C, F, A, F, D, G, B, G, back to C. Now against the new chord, the G chord, let's play the different variations so you get it in your fingers and also in your ear for ear training purposes. First, just the chord tones. Now we will connect the chord tones with passing tones. Remember, each of the passing tones is a non-chord tone, and each one will have a certain different color. Slight dissonance against the chord. Now, after we did the passing tone, we did the auxiliary note, which is 1 note above the chord tone. So you play the chord tone, go 1 note above, and then back. Or play the chord tone 1 note below, and then back. So I will do that now with the 3 notes of the G chord. We will do D, E, D, D, C, D, and then we'll do G, A, G, G, F, G, and then B, C, B, B, A, B. And just listen carefully to the sound. And of course, as with all examples, please try and play along or play by yourself after each one. You will notice that I'm doing it in the position that we're playing our left hand with, in other words, D, G, B. And now the most expressive note of the non-chord tones, the appoggiatura. This is more expressive and colorful due to the fact that we are starting with the non-chord tone, the tension, then moving to the calm, rather than moving from calm to tension back to calm. In other words, consonants to dissonance to consonants. So now, here with the appoggiatura, I will play an appoggiatura, one above the chord tone and one below, moving to the chord tone for each of the notes of the G chord. So I will play the G chord, and then for the D note, I will start on E and move to D, and then I will do it again, but this time I will start on C and move to D. For the G, I will start on the A and move to G, and then I will start on the F and move to G. And for the B, I will start one note higher, the C, then resolve to the B, and then I will go one note lower, the A, the lower appoggiatura, then move up to the B. The longer you hold the appoggiatura, the emotional intensity is prolonged and heightened. Now, up to this point, we have treated each chord individually. Now, let's connect two chords at a time with a phrase. So a phrase is like a phrase in English. You just have a group of notes that you say something and then pause. For more on this, check out episodes 1 through 10. That deals with building a song, phrases, chords, everything. First of all, I will connect the C chord to the F chord. Against the C chord, I will play the note C, the root, and then I will play two passing tones, D, E, and then the chord will change to the F chord, and I will move to the F, the root of the F chord. So I'm playing C, D, and E, which are passing tones to the F of the F chord. Let's listen. For our next example, I will play a C chord. I will play the E, the third of that chord, and then a passing note, passing tone D to the F chord, the C of the F chord. So I'm going to play E, D, and C. E is a chord tone of C, D is a passing tone, a non-chord tone this time, to the C, which is a chord tone, the fifth of the F chord. Consonants through dissonance back to consonants. For our next example, I will use an auxiliary tone. So I will start with the note C against the C chord, move up to the D, the auxiliary note, back to the C, and then a passing note B to the A of the F chord. So the notes are C, D, C, auxiliary note above, and then back to the chord tone, then a passing tone B to the A in the next measure of the F chord. In our next example, I will combine both the auxiliary note and the appoggiatura. So for the C chord, I will play E, F, E. E chord tone, F auxiliary tone, back to E chord tone. And then when the chord changes to the F chord, I will play the note D, which is a non-chord tone, one step above C, and then it will resolve to the note C. So the D is the appoggiatura, and C is the chord tone. Now remember when I spoke about the song Titanic, and I said in the middle of the song, they jump into the appoggiatura, which makes it much more emotional because you're introducing it with a large leap. Let's do that here. I will play the C chord. I will play C, D, C. So that would be chord tone, auxiliary tone, back to the C. Then I will play the C again. Now, as the chord changes to F, I will jump all the way up to the note B, which is one step higher than the chord tone A. So that the B is the appoggiatura, and then it resolves to the A. Listen to the emotional impact of that interval jump and the appoggiatura. This technique is used a great deal in music, and one of the finest examples is in the song Moon River from the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's by Henry Mancini. I did an episode about this, the intervals and the emotion, and in that song we have the same notes I just played. He jumps from a C to a B in the F chord, and then he comes down the scale. Let me play that for you. As I mentioned earlier, if you sustain the note and hold the note, that makes it even more emotional. Now, on a keyboard, you'll notice that the note dies away right away. In fact, that's why I layered this with a pad, so it sustains it. But if you're playing a wind instrument or singing or a guitar where they use a sustain pedal, then you can really hold that note out before you resolve it. What I just played were two measure phrases. Now, phrasing is what makes the music relatable to the listener. It would be like in English if you had run-on sentences. After a while, it makes no sense. It's exactly the same in music. You have to let the music breathe. You have to have pauses. Debussy said silence between the notes is just as important as the notes themselves, and this is so true in both instrumental music and, of course, music with lyrics. Now I will play some backing tracks using the three chords now, C, F, and G. So play along with your left hand. First, practice ear training, recognizing the chords as I play them. Also, do not just use the chord names. Think of the Roman numerals. C the 1, F the 4, G the 5. This is because all the keys, as I said, are functionally the same. Each chord can move anywhere, but they do have a certain quality or pull. The 1 is the tonic, home, so to speak. Here I will play 1 to 4 chord and then 1 to the 5 chord, C to F, C to G. Four pulls to 5 due to its proximity. 4 pulls to 1, F to C, used in church for Amen. And 5 to 1 in traditional harmony, known as the perfect cadence, is the strongest pull to 1 of the triads in the key. I will play C, G, C, and then I will play C, F, G, C. Notice how they pull to one another. In blues, and then, which led to rock, 5 to 4 to 1 became popular. So that would be G, F, C. In fact, for our first backing track, let's use a 12-bar, the traditional blues background chords. If you're not familiar with the pattern, I will call out the chords the first time as they go by. Now, when you improvise to this, let's try it two ways. The first way, for each chord, mix up what we talked about. Use the chord tones, non-chord tones, auxiliary tones, passing tones, and appoggiaturas. In other words, you're going to make up a song using these three chords, which thousands of songs are created this way from these three chords. Also, I'd like to mention, up to this point, we've talked about using these techniques to create songs or solos. But of course, there are other important uses. One is, if you're making your arrangement, let's say you record at home now, of course, we can do everything at home, record, make a finished product, and then publicize it on social media. Now, if you're making a demo or a finished product, but you want to add in like strings or horns or background vocals, in other words, different counter melodies, even the bass line is really a counter melody. All these techniques will help you to create all these other lines. Think of the arrangements Phineas O'Connell makes for Billie Eilish, his sister. they create a finished product in their bedroom. It's just amazing. With the technology, especially the programs such as Logic Pro or Sibelius or Garriton orchestras, there are so many, but the thing is, you could do it all yourself. So to improvise melodies for whatever purpose you're going to use them for is so valuable. I am going to make 2 backing tracks for us. The first one will use C, F, and G in a slow pattern so you can think about each note and use all the techniques we've studied so far. The second one, I will do a 12-bar blues using C, F, and G a little faster, and if you wish, when blues musicians play, to get the blues sound, they use the blues scale. I will give you that scale. In other words, it's a major scale. They have the first note, so that would be a C. Not the second note, they leave out the D. And the third note, instead of playing E, they lower it a half step to E flat. This imitates the early blues singers' technique to lower the note to make more emotional. Then we have the fourth note, the F, the fifth note, the G. They skip the sixth note, the A, and then the B flat, instead of B natural, they have B flat. That's the other blues note. So the third and the seventh note are lowered 1/2 step. I'll play this slowly for you to give that blues sound. So the basic scale is going to be C, E flat, F, G, B flat, C. Now, musicians have added in some other notes. For example, the E, instead of just the E flat, they use the E flat maybe to the E as a passing tone to the F. And then also in jazz, which is very popular, they take the fifth note, the G, and they flat it. So it would be G flat. That's called a flat 5. So now the notes you can use are C, E flat, E, F, F sharp or G flat, G, B flat, and C. Let me play those for you. So on the second backing track, try that. Try the blues scale against it. And if you like the blues, you can go on YouTube. There are so many backing tracks in every key. Fast, slow, Latin, everything you could think of for free. It's like having a band just backing you all the time. And if you go to Google and say you want to print out blues scales in every key, it'll be right there for you. And since we're on the subject too, in earlier podcasts, I always mention, I think the best advice I could ever give anyone is to play the guitar, play the keyboard, play the drums, and sing all the time, whether you're a singer or not. Really doesn't matter. Just never stop. Get the music inside you. And the guitar, with YouTube, if you don't play the guitar, in a few weeks you could learn the basic chords that you need to write modern songs. The keyboard, the same thing. Well, we're working on it here, but you could print out all the chords, or even people show you where to put your fingers. It's so easy. The reason I say the drums have been proven in countless studies in universities to help you physically and mentally. And as I have said, you could start with a pair of sticks on a pots and pans on a pillow and just work your way up and just play along with your favorite songs. Sing with your favorite songs, sing the melody, try and sing the harmony. The harmony parts, if you're not familiar, try and sing the melody, but sing higher or lower than they are. Your ear will make the adjustment for the correct notes against the chords. That's why people who have no musical training at all, no formal training, can sing beautiful harmony. It's inside you. You just have to practice it. And when you're improvising, sing along. That way the music will not just come out of your fingers, but it'll come out of you. Now I will play the 2 backing tracks. If you are new to the keyboard, first play the left hand with me, and then the second time you listen to it, then just do the right hand improvising the different melodies, and then maybe once you feel comfortable, put it together on your own. You could just sit and play endless melodies, and then you could even change the order of the chords. which is what most songwriters do. They take the chords in the key of whatever key they're in. Let's say you're in the key of C, so you take the chords in the key of C. You change the order, see what you prefer, and then you create your melodies to that new order of chords. Or get inspired by other people's chord progressions. Remember, chord progressions are not copyrightable. As I pointed out in numerous episodes, the 1-5-6-4 progression, C, G, A minor, and F, is the most popular progression used today. Thousands of songs use this same progression. In the first backing track, let's do each chord for 8 beats. In other words, 2 measures each. So it gives you time to think about what notes to use. And we will use this progression. C for 2 measures, then F for 2 measures, G for 2 measures, back to F for 2 measures. C major, F major, G major, back to F major, C major. Then the pattern will start again. Now for the second backing track, this will be a regular blues progression. I'll call it out the first time through. Now here, use the blues scale, feel free, and if you land on a note and it's not a note you want, remember what Miles Davis said. He said there are no wrong notes. It depends what you hit next. Just resolve it to a note you want. That's such a great quote. So now here we have a regular C blues background. C, F, C. Now to F. Stay on F. Back to C. G, 5 chord to the 4 chord F. To the 1 chord C. Now the G becomes a turnaround. It pulls us back to the beginning. So this was the basic 12-bar blues pattern. Now, people will add chords into it that we'll get into later on, but this is the pattern that everybody uses for a blues. Now, when you use the blues scale, as with the chords, most people use the same scale. So what sets them apart? Well, I thought of another Miles Davis quote that I think is so perfect for the blues. He said, "It's not the notes, it's the attitude." And if you listen to the great blues players, that is so, so true. What B.B. King says in 5 or 6 notes, other people can't do with 100. And they're all basically playing the notes I showed earlier. If you ever get into jazz blues, then they superimpose different chords or different scales. But what we've talked about is the true basic blues. So to review, what we have done now is we've done the chord tones, non-chord tones, passing tones, auxiliary tones, and appoggiaturas with C, F, and G. In our next episode, we will add in a new chord and some new ideas and new techniques. And we also covered the blues and those great quotes from Debussy and Miles Davis. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Joe.